Let's just start with this feeling of wrapping your arm around something. The figure of 8, basically. My arm is going out and it's going around something. So just imagine like a person or a tree or something here, and your arm has to go around. So as the hand's coming in like this, it's really opening here in the shoulder to get as big a circle as possible. So it's coming in to the middle here, into the heart, out of the back. I want to feel the opening that enables this arm to reach around something to the back of it. Something here has to really open up. Bring it into riding horse. So that's the feeling in the arms and the chest, like you've got two really open spaces inside of the shoulder. So the elbows are out, space in the armpits, space in front of the armpit as well. And we want to feel the same thing in the legs. If this figure of 8 is on this plane, on the flat plane, then the figure of 8 in the legs is on the vertical plane like this. It's like something comes out of the side of the sacrum, goes down the leg and under, and then up into my dantian, and then it comes out of this side. So it's the same turning, visualizing it as dipping down and under the foot. And I want to feel those hollows in the groin that are the equivalent of the hollow here. My arm goes out and it has to really reach to get behind the back of this large object here. The sense is that the same thing is happening in my leg. This has to really open up so that the energy can get down under the foot and then come back up. Opening here, the pocket opening in the groin, that's important. Just feel the feeling. What is it inside me that has to open up emotionally to allow this opening in the groin? Technically, you can just think of it as the knee. My knee goes out first, and I get dragged along. So the secret is just not letting the body move too soon. My weight wants to stay in this leg. So this really pushes, the knee pushes out, this stretches open. And it's that pull, that elastic pull that drags me along. So my knee goes out, and eventually my body follows it. But there's a real reluctance in the body to move. Just check the feet. And now just feel these holes here with like circulating energy. abdominal breathing, so just pulling the belly in as you breathe out, and then just letting it expand out. Feel this tensing the belly, but really squeezing the sacroiliacs open at the back. So my sacroiliacs squeeze open, my kidneys swell. Now let's try the thoracic breathing. So breathing in, letting the back arch back a little bit. So really feeling it here in the thymus, the upper heart, and then letting that just collapse back down. Breathing in, and then relaxing the breath out. And my shoulder blades are pulling together to get this to really swell open. Try and have the mind with one hand at a time. So get one hand moving and then quickly bring the other one in. So you don't have a controlling mind that's doing both together, locking them together and trying to do them as one. They're always very much two, the two arms, always wanting to stray apart and gain a little more independence. So I pull one in and then I pull the other. I let one out and then the other one comes out. So there's always a twist and turn going on in the spine. And then just combining the two breathings. So breathing in, breathing out, and then really pulling the belly in and switching to the dantian, and then let that relax. Mind comes back into the upper heart, expand, that relaxes, and then the mind dips down into the dantian. And then feeling this breathing as a figure of 8. Think of your solar plexus. We never really do any work for that center, but it's sort of the middle of the body. If you had your arms up, then the solar plexus would be the middle of your body. If you've got your arms out to the side or down, then the navel or the dantian is the middle of the body. If I've got my arms and my legs involved, and it's really the solar plexus. So what I want to do is when I do this part of the breathing, I'm going down like this and then up. So I'm doing a loop from out of the back of my solar plexus down under my feet and then back up the front. And then when I do the thoracic breathing from my chest, it comes out of my back opposite the solar plexus and then up over the head like this. So I'm inside a figure of 8 that's on this plane. So I'll do the upper breathing, and then I breathe out and relax, and then I pull the belly in, and that pulls this loop into the solar plexus, and then I can just drop it down the legs. And then as I relax my breath, the breath comes back in and the hands come up into the solar plexus, back. And then back up into riding horse. Again, this is just really important, this feeling of these pockets here being swollen open. With the arms, the elbows are out so that these spaces open up. With the legs, the knees are out so that these spaces open up. And then I have to really control my lower back, because when I push out here, the bum tends to stick out. So I have to pull here to get that sense of my tail going down rather than backwards. So the two principles of motion, so single-weightedness, or really just the fact that we have a left and a right side and they're mirror images of each other. So that enables me to use my two sides sequentially in order to run and walk. But then also turning. So the primacy of turning in Tai Chi is just trying to get us out of a vision of the world that is sort of rectangular, that has these straight lines, mainly straight lines going forwards and back, and straight lines going left and right. So that creates this sort of grid-like, box-like structure that is very non-organic. So what we want to do is get into an axial sense of reality, a sense that I am turning around an axis. That's the dominant feature of my mobility. It's not my ability to step forwards and step back. This comes first. So let's just try. So just keep the arms up like this because it's a bit more controlled. And just feel it turning from the hips. So it's really quite complex because to keep the legs relaxed, the sacroiliacs have to be endlessly relaxing. So my single-weightedness, my symmetry about a vertical plane through my body is a fact of my body, of the reality that is my body. This axial reality is something that we have to cultivate in the mind because it's not, in a sense, natural to our body. It's very much a secondary thing when we move. The body obviously twists and turns as you walk, but the main thrust is your mind directed forwards. So here I'm just really trying to train my mind just to let go of the room and just scan, go into like a blurred vision and just let the head go with the hips. And I want to feel the two forces of turning, the centrifugal and the centripetal. So something in me is obviously having to hold on around my spine to make this turn happen. And another part of me is being thrown away from the spine by the speed of the turning, which admittedly is not high at the moment. But if we were to really turn and let the arms swing, you can just feel the centrifugal in the arms that are being thrown away from the body. Now, what I want to do is get the turn. I want to move in the same way as this exercise that we did at the beginning. This sense of this opening up in order to embrace something that's down here. So that's basically yielding. That's what happens when you yield. You open up a hole within your territory and you embrace it and allow the other to come into that space that you've created. It's just like if you're going to put your arm around someone. You're going to put your arm around someone, you just reach behind them. So as you reached out, the body just naturally turns away to get more extension of the arm. The arm curls up by me opening here and turning around to face what it is that I've captured. So this is the turn. So let's just try that. So send the arm out by turning over here. You have to turn the head enough so that you can't really see the hand at all. And then you just soften here and just think of the arm rounding, and that will pull you round. And then you end up facing the hand. And then this one goes out. And then again, I just open this shoulder here. So my yielding, my opening a compassionate space, which I then wrap my arm around and cuddle into myself. Yielding causes turning. You turn away to extend the arm, to let your energy out, and then you turn back to get your energy behind. So really, the energy is here in my hand. I've made a sandwich with my chest and my hand, and the other person is in here. So ward off is really an embrace. It's not something that you're keeping the other person away with. And just feel the shoulder. So the shoulder blade really pulls out away from the spine. So it's not just a matter of just wrapping the arm around. The shoulder is going out. The shoulder's really working. It has to pull away from the spine. So it means there's a real structural change as that shoulder blade reaches. It comes up a little bit and sort of over like this. So this really does become hollow. So it's quite dramatic, really. There's quite a significant change that goes on in your upper body. Turning to yield. Yielding requires turning. And now just feeling it in the legs. Because if you're going to turn like this, it's obviously coming from your legs, because that's what's working with the ground. Exactly the same thing has happened with the arm. My leg sort of comes away and reaches, and then as the knee goes out and the leg tries to do this, then my knee is trying to get behind the back of this imaginary other person. There's a sense that this hip is sort of pulled away from the sacrum the same way here. I mean, it doesn't pull away from the sacrum because those sacroiliacs can't open up in that way, but there's a feeling that it is. So what I want to make sure is that I get it in the legs and the hips as well as in the arms and the shoulders. So it's really just the leg bending and embracing with the knee. And I'm just trying to get it to pull away here at the back. It feels really as dramatic as this does when you do this, but it's just a lot more difficult. Feel it turning you. It turns you round to have a meeting with the thing that's come towards you. I can tell when people have got it because their knees look very active. You can see that it's all started in the movement of the knee. The knee clearly contains the spirit. So my knee goes out and that is pulling me round. Okay, now let's just try the turning again, just the simple turning, which we were doing before. Feeling it as this leg is embracing like this to pull me round, and then this leg is embracing. I want to feel the turn as a consequence of a yield. Yielding is everything in Tai Chi. The breathing is a yielding. The touch with the other, with the ground, is a yielding. I'm opening up and letting something in. Very difficult. But unless you can do that, you can't get anything out of yourself. And then just keep it like this, but just feel that this here is doing this, and that's pulling me round. So it's your back leg, really. Your back leg is actually really important because that's where the impetus to yield is going to come from. And it's like our full and empty. Unless I've really released here, there's nothing out there to pull back. I have to be able to let my energy out in order to then yield it back in. And similarly, I have to be able to yield it back in before I can release it out. So it's difficult. So this really has to flush out. And then I just bring it back. How do I get it to return? I have to yield. So I have to make a hole that has a sort of vacuum in it that will suck what's been released back into me. Because I've just let go. I don't have any strings attached to this energy, but if I can just open up and yield, it will return. And then let's just try just the first warm-up exercise. But it's the same thing. I just want the sense that I'm coming into this space that's just been emptied. So you turn to the side, and then this turn back is just inevitable because you're sucked back. And as you practice it, just keep bringing your mind back to the legs. It's easy to feel it in the arms, so we tend to stay with the arms. It's much more difficult with the legs. So trying to relax the legs whilst they're holding you up is like an impossible task, but we just want to keep them as relaxed as possible. So again, this feeling here. So it's very much not my legs holding me up. My legs aren't thrusting me up. My legs are always trying to pull me down. Bring it up. Feel the head suspended, the neck lengthening, the sacrum heavy, just hanging down. Imagine if you hung up onto a bar here and just let go with your knees, how much would your sacrum swing forwards? It would swing forwards quite a lot. The legs are always trying to straighten and push the sacrum backwards. So if I really relax the legs, particularly the knees, then the sacrum will just naturally swing forwards a little bit, or a lot actually. Feel the down chin heavy. And then feel this part here, the upper heart, that should be light. So depression is a heavy heart and a floating down chin. If your down chin isn't reaching into the ground properly, then this can't reach up. And then let's just try just a tiny bit of this, just tipping the hips. So one leg is trying to straighten and push this hip up, and the other leg is bending a bit more to suck this hip down. So I'm getting real play in the hips. And you can think of it just as pointing your tail, pointing my tail here, and then I'm pointing my tail here. So the middle of the sacrum isn't moving, but it's sort of rocking. And it's rotating. So when one side is rising and the other side is sinking, then it's basically a turn. It's like a wheel on this plane that's turning around. So this hand is trying to get underneath this hand. I'm trying to do this. Bring it back. So having the sacrum back, which is where our mind likes it to be, that's what we have to do in order to close this into a thinking loop. So the head should really be very, very open, reaching out and receiving. You're just really fascinated. So you're not thinking to yourself. But that can only really happen when this sort of pulls forwards. And it's almost like the top of your head is being taken off and the brain is just communicating directly with the heavens. So this is open like this, but here is open like this, really just reaching down, like it's sending these roots that are then going to sort of twist and extend. This is just full of light, and this is just searching for the darkness. But they're both open. Without the openness, just no energy will flow through. And the only thing you can do then is just be forceful.